So I had a recorded intro on camera ready and everything, but it just didn't work. It lasted way longer than I wanted to. And even in its length, it still was pretty slow. And it was so overexposed. So I'm going to make this audio only. So before we start, I want to say how this series will move forward. Instead of 21 movies or 11 movies like in this video, I'm going to keep it at a nice 14 or 15 movies per episode. 16 if I'm feeling a bit frisky. But enough about that. Let's jump in. Welcome to the new movie project. This is now my first W.C. Fields. You have this sort of adaptation, avant-adaptation approach to filmmaking, which is pretty cool. And for its length, it doesn't outstay its welcome at all, even though the bulk of the film made zero sense whatsoever, even though it's like it's supposed to be a story within a story, and it just felt a little bit out there. But then the ending comes in and just derails the entire movie and completely forgets the notion of a plot. And it's actually quite fun. You know, if you want to see a film about Mr. Rogers, This Always Won't You Be My Neighbor, but Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers is just, he's so fucking good. You can't merely pass this one up. It's just so sweet. He's just so disarming as a character. Yeah, I did protest initially because Sam Waterston walks this very fair earth, but when you really think about it, the actor that is Tom Hanks is so quintessentially Mr. Rogers in like an energy type, same aura. Turns out they're very distant relatives. It works. You know, I suspended disbelief and just saw less of Tom Hanks and saw more of a Mr. Rogers. With all that said about his performance, the movie is just, it's not a biopic. It's a story that takes place conveniently during the time of this journalist's, this hardened, I only write serious pieces journalist's life. I can't tell you a single thing about any of the other characters in this film that aren't Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, except maybe Matthew Rhys and his wife. That's it. I can't think of anything else. This film is just, it's there. It exists. Except for Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, but I've said that enough. I've said that enough times to prove my point, but moving on. This is definitely a byproduct of French New Wave, Godard and Truffaut. I feel like this movie is definitely made by somebody who stopped caring years ago if they made that film in the middle of their career. However, this film almost seemed like a pitch for what would be her opus Jean Dielman 23 Quai de Commerce 1080 Brussels, which I still haven't finished yet. I might talk about it someday. This is a film you would definitely see somebody make in the midst of their career if they gave up, but she just like immediately pretended to give up from the get-go. All there was to go was just upwards from here on out, and she did. Oh my god. You wouldn't expect for the life of you to think that this is a debut. The poster of the film was meant to emulate a book cover by Walter Dean Myers. Having looked at that poster for so long and then having seen the movie, you almost think for a split second, these people aren't real. This whole setup isn't real. There's no way this can be real. The cinematography is so nicely crafted, it almost looks like animation. But no, it's not. It's just really nice. The score is amazing. That, and Uncut Gems got shafted terribly. It really made me miss my old home. It also gave me another perspective and another point of view and another angle of the San Francisco Bay that I never thought I'd see when I went to visit there almost 3 years ago. When I went there, it was windy as hell, gloomy as shit. I think I might have just been there at the wrong time. This is a short film by Susan Sadelman that was included on this Criterion Blu-ray, and, you know, it's alright. It definitely does show that men suck very profusely and very professionally, too. This is a short film by Susan Sadelman that was included on this Criterion Blu-ray, and, you know, it's alright. It definitely does show that men suck very profusely and very professionally, too. Especially in this one, the post-punk influences really do come to play later on in Smithereens. I mean, not that the film has post-punk influences thrown in there, but the film's direction towards post-punk is very clear. Almost completely unremarkable, except for a handful of things. Katharine Hepburn as Jo March is unbelievable. She is a force to be reckoned with, but the rest of the film is so unremarkable and so color by numbers, even though it's in black and white, it's almost forgettable. Key word, almost.
May I engage you for this dance, Miss March?
No, thank you, I'm not dancing.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi? I hope she made lots of spaghetti.
June Allison did what she could with an almost exact replica of the original version that Katharine Hepburn was in, but ultimately the movie is a lot less remarkable. The Technicolor cinematography added barely anything. Yeah, I know Elizabeth Taylor and Janet Leigh are here, but it doesn't make much of a difference to me. But the rest is just And they almost played that same theme. They almost did. But you hear it in the background. So I think they did sort of think in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't be too much like the original. But then they thought more and thought, yeah, maybe this might bite us in the ass in about 45 years. Yeah, how's that for a twist? Little Monsters is a very new film, and literally the only other movie that Lupita Nyong'o appeared in on camera this past year that wasn't just the sophomore film by Jordan Peele, Us. I feel like everybody in the film had fun. Josh Gad, I think, out of everybody, probably seemed to have had the most therapeutic time on the film. For a guy who has mostly just shown up in Disney films for the last few years, or at least the biggest things he worked on in the last few years were Disney films, when he just sort of separated himself from the overlord that is his boss for just one single movie, he really did shine in his own way. He really did. He had a lot of fun, I think. I could tell just by the look on his eyes that, like, oh god, yes, I get to fuck around. The cinematography, all in all, could have been way better, honestly. If it was shot a little bit more interestingly, if it was a little bit prettier, then I feel like a lot more people will be talking about it more. But it is a very fun, enjoyable film. I feel like you can definitely put this on at a party, at a house party. This movie is a byproduct of, like, Hanukkah and Gus Van Sant's Elephant. I did not expect to like this film as much as I did. I really didn't. Ezra Miller is fantastic. This is the perfect kind of slow burner, slow cinema type film that I would have loved. I would have been head over heels in the middle of high school. Criminally underrated. Not for everybody, of course. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Very intense as well, but check it out. This is only slightly better than the 33 version. Now, unlike the other two, this film actually does something different to the story, period. Very frequently would watch this film and go, yes, that is how you do this. This is how you show it. This is how you, like, you know, make something different. After having seen the two versions of Little Women prior, seeing this was like kind of a breath of fresh air, really. More of the characters shown than in the previous versions. The fact that they had an older version of Amy to show the passing of time was actually quite commendable, and made a whole lot of a difference, because Winona Ryder, it was very difficult to show a 15-year-old to a 19-year-old Joe Marsh, which is a very different approach to what the original versions did, which was a supposedly 10-year gap in between. Joe did not shine. Joe didn't shine, which is not something I'm not used to, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't make sense for her not to shine. And I still have yet to see the Greta Gerwig version, but if she knows what's good, she might take all of the previous films as positives and negatives and just weigh them out to make something actually decent. And from what I've seen from the runtime, it's longer than all the other versions. Those are all the movies I'm talking about. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you either in the middle of the month or like end of the second week, beginning of the third week. We'll just see when it comes out next. Take care, and I'll see you soon.